So we're now on the public record.
Right, so I'll start the meeting. So
Yeah.
good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first council meeting for some months. It's good to see you all, and I hope you and your families have been safe and well during these difficult times. So again, if Chris wants to do a roll call.
I can do that now, Chair, if you like. So if I read out the names, if you could say yes, that would be helpful. Or present. How about present? That would be even better. So, Councillor Armstrong.
Present.
I have apologies from Councillor Bainbridge, but we'll come to that in a moment. I have apologies from Councillor Baldry. Councillor Briggs. Herbert.
Present.
Councillor Ryan Briggs.
Present.
Councillor Barbara Cannon.
Present.
Councillor Beth Dixon.
Present.
Councillor David Farrer. That's you, David.
Present. Thank you, mate.
Councillor Sue Fryer.
Present.
Councillor Jed Glaister. Jed, are you with us somewhere? You were.
His name's there.
He's muted.
I've asked him to unmute.
Right. Present.
Thank you, Jed.
I can't book it, eh?
You're doing fine. Councillor Hilary Harrington.
Present.
Councillor MJ Heaslip.
Present.
Councillor Joe Holiday.
Present.
I have apologies from Johnny Hunter. Councillor David King. Shout, David.
Present.
Councillor Janet King.
Present.
I have apologies from Councillor McCarthy. Councillor Melton.
Present.
Councillor Miskelly.
Present.
I have apologies from Councillor Rollo. Councillor Sansom.
Present.
Councillor Scott.
Present.
Councillor Stoddart. You're here somewhere, Stephen. I've seen you. Where's he gone? Has he left the meeting?
He must have left the meeting, Chris. I've been through the
He was.
screens. He's not there.
Yeah, no, we're down on one. He might come back. Councillor Wilkinson
Present.
and Councillor Williams.
Present.
Thank you very much.
One question, please. There's no raised hand facility on this screen. How do we attract the attention of the mayor?
If you go down to the bottom to participants, can you see right at the bottom of the screen?
I can there, yeah.
There's one that says participants. I
Yes,
think I'm
ma'am.
right in saying if you click on that.
No,
Yes.
no, Janet.
No.
No.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see. Thank you
can up
very
there.
much, mate.
The dots.
I
You can either
see.
do the
Thank
dots
you.
or.
I think you can do it either way.
Thank you very much.
Are we all happy with that? Does anybody need any more guidance on how this works? When the meeting starts for proper, I shall mute everybody except for the chair. And then if you want to speak, if you raise your hand, and Janet, you've got host control as well as me, so you should be able to
Right.
see the participants list, and you should see the hands raised in the
Yeah.
participants list.
Right.
How would you raise your hand?
Can I,
Should be in there.
Janet?
Hello?
John Quinn. Janet, you say that I'm not part of the meeting yet. I'm not a councillor, so can I still ask questions?
In the public participation session, John,
Right, and
which is at the start of the meeting.
Right at the beginning.
right,
So
Right.
Janet will tell you just when you can and when you
right.
can't.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Janet.
Should we make a start, Chair?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm just looking actually. Where can people raise their hands? I can't see it on here.
Do it in the picture.
More.
Pardon?
Bottom where more is.
Where's more?
Need action. The right hand bottom corner.
Ah,
Found it.
no, can't find it. Never mind.
You got
The-
it.
As long as everybody else is all right, that's it.
I don't think the host and the co-host can raise their hands.
Oh, that's probably it then.
There's no need
Well,
for you.
I don't know how to raise my hand.
Jed.
Yeah.
Right, you will have on your screen
Yeah.
a camera that keeps on changing when someone speaks. If you tap on the black background at the bottom,
Right.
then it will release some more menus along the bottom. On the bottom right-hand corner, there is 3 dots. If you tap on the 3 dots, it opens another window. And in there, it will say, raise hand. All you do is tap that, and then you will see a yellow hand come up at the bottom of the screen.
We seem to have some children present. Fantastic. Right, with the mayor's permission, I'm going to mute all, and I'm going to pass over to the mayor to start the meeting. Okay.
That's fine, thank you. Right,
Except the mayor. You have to unmute yourself, Janet.
right, so I start again. Right. I said my chaplain isn't able to join us on Zoom this evening, but now seems a good time just to take a moment to remember all those who we've sadly lost during this time to this virus. So we could just take a minute's silence. Thank you. We'll go on to the police report. Inspector Rachel Game, please. Oh, sorry, have I missed out? No, I haven't. What's next? Sorry, it's police report, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Just to sort of give you a bit of an overview of what's been happening in the area. In terms of general crime, I'm sure you can understand that crime levels dipped quite significantly in April and May as we were in lockdown. But antisocial behaviour levels did actually go up, and most of that was in relation to reports of COVID breaches because they are classed as antisocial behaviour on the police incident logging systems. However, crime is now slowly returning back to normal. When I say normal, those sort of normal levels that we would start anticipating at this time of year. Antisocial behaviour remains level because obviously we still do have those reports of COVID, but we've also got more people out and about now as well. We were starting to see an increase in sort of neighbour disputes and things, which again I think we would all sort of appreciate that people have been locked away in the houses. So fortunately the hub and all the hub partners have continued to manage to come together and resolve a lot of those problems, albeit we've had to come up with new and creative ways of working. And obviously at first the activity did drop off, but I'm pleased to say that the hub partner meetings have always continued, and we're just going back out to the wider partners now as opposed to just the core partners. In terms of police and partner priorities for the Workington area, we've currently set Clay Street, Milburn Street and the Cumberland Hotel as our priority locations. There's a lot of partner activity going on around those. We also still have St Michael's Ward and More Close area as our longer term community priorities. And I'll sort of drill down a little bit more into the activity that's going on in those areas. So in St Michael's Ward, we managed to gain the first full closure orders under the Antisocial Behaviour Crime and Policing Act 2014. The officers worked really hard and in some circumstances did work with housing partners there, because their legislation's actually kind of been a lot more limited with COVID, that they actually can't evict people. It certainly has to be very by exception, but we've worked with them to get closure orders on Headlands Close and John Street. We went out to residents, and the residents in some areas were a bit reluctant at first to help because I think they've got so used to the activity. So I completely understood that, and the officers have worked really hard to try and build up that community confidence. And people then did start coming forward and start giving us information, which led to those closure orders. So I'm really pleased about that. And when we've just gone back out to do further street safe surveys around there so that we can properly collate how much of a difference that's made, but certainly anecdotally in the feedback that we've had back from the residents around those closure orders has been that they've actually managed to get a good night's sleep, that they're you know, really pleased with the sort of diminished activity. So that's what we're sort of looking at towards Clay Street and Milburn Street now. There's some premises closures on there that we are working to and looking at. We've also started to issue a lot more community protection warning notices. So there is sort of, I guess you could describe them as a step down from closure orders. But they can say to people in a formal manner, this is the type of behaviour that you are doing and you must stop this. If they continue to do that after they've had a formal warning, they get a notice. And if they continue to do that kind of activity again, then they can actually be fined. And if they continue to breach, then they can be taken to court. So there's lots of different sort of powers that we're trying now, which I'm really pleased about, and hopefully you'll start to notice some difference. Not saying it's all going to be resolved overnight, obviously, but we've got some really good ways of working now. Just by way of example as well, so as I said, that sort of bottom end of town, obviously a lot of those premises are in there as priorities, and response officers, so not just the local focused neighbourhood policing team, but the response officers are incorporating it into their patrols. And just yesterday they were on foot in plain clothes and came across 3 males taking drugs in the churchyard. All 3 were arrested after a bit of a foot chase. The officers were a bit out of breath, but they did win. They won that one, and all 3 males were charged with possession of Class C drugs. So it's just to give you the reassurances that when we say we are doing extra patrols, you know, we are in that area doing that. I know the St Michael's Ward project continues, and I think, Chris, you dialed into a meeting earlier with the Hub and police, so you might have a bit more of an uptake on that. Unfortunately, I couldn't dial into that. I do apologise if I'm stuttering. I've literally been at work since midnight, so I'm feeling it a bit because I've been dealing with an incident elsewhere in the county. So please do forgive me. So in the more close area, obviously we've got the wider work that was ongoing, and we had really successful warrants and a load of activity not long before lockdown, and then we did the More Close Together project. That did get a bit stilted, obviously with COVID and what happened, but that is being refreshed, and we are looking at that. To have a look at what work continues there. We did have a mini operation in the area to do some preemptive work based on some intelligence that we'd had, that there might be people coming in from away again, and that operation seems to have been successful based on the information that we're now getting in there. That was around drug warrants and arrests. So I'm quite happy that we're getting a good level of community information coming in, that we are able and we are acting on there. I think that's sort of everything from a community perspective that we're taking on at the moment. So I'm quite happy, Chair, if you want to open it up for questions.
Thank you very much. See, Councillor Wilkinson's got his hand up.
Thank you, Lady Mayor. Yeah, Inspector Gill. As you know, we have been in communication. I would like to thank you for your continued efforts that's been ongoing in St Michael's Ward, especially around the Clare Street, Milburn Street, Gladstone Street area. Things are a bit thicker on the ground with regard to the homeless being housed in the Cumberland Arms Hotel. The only thing I could do is thank you for your continued efforts. It has been noticed. Everyone is now actually knocking on my door to get the contacts. And the only thing I could say is, could that be possibly brought into the meetings as well? Yes, emails are nice and easy to get backwards and forwards, but a meeting together, as you know, I work very close with Mitch, and I would like to be a bit more hands-on, if at all possible. Thank you.
Chair, may I provide a response?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Wilkinson. Yeah, so the project's being run by the hub. So what I'll do is I'll put that request forward to the hub, and they'll either invite you into the meetings, or they'll certainly find a way that they can communicate and get on board with you. Thanks very much for that offer of help and joining in. I'll certainly get either Mitch or Emma from the hub to contact you.
Thank you very much. Has anyone else any questions? No?
Mike Heaslip's got his hand up.
Oh, sorry, can't see that. Yeah, sorry, Councillor Heaslip.
Thanks very much, Inspector Gale. We've communicated a few times about properties in St John's Wood and John Street and Roper Street, and I'm pleased to see that we've got a result there. And I just want to thank you for your cooperation and help in dealing with those problems in the John Street, Roper Street area. We're not out of the woods yet, but we're working with the enforcement people at Allerdale Council to see if we can get a final resolution to those problems. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Right. Mr. Quinn? I'll move to... Chris, can John speak?
Janet?
Yes.
Oh, hey there, yeah. Janet, okay. What it is, Peter, it's to do with the dumping of waste and burning of waste on the Orton Street allotments. Now, it's been a little bit less lately, as you know, probably with the virus and that, eh?
Excuse me, this is the council meeting. I'm really getting
Oh,
confused.
so you can't tell what...
in the next
I thought it was
part.
We're not quite ready for you, John. Just
okay, son.
Give us 2 minutes.
Okay, son. Thank you.
Carol's got her hand up.
Sorry, Carol.
It was just to make sure we're doing this meeting properly, because at the moment it seems like a bit of a shambles, and although John's there, which is absolutely fine, he shouldn't be speaking until the public participation part.
Yeah, we're just coming to that, Carol.
That's okay, thank you. I shall go down.
I'm sorry, I'm struggling to see the screen. Is Inspector Gale gone?
No,
Gale.
she's still here.
Where? Can't see.
She's in there somewhere. Ryan Briggs.
Oh yes, sorry, can see you. Right.
Ryan Briggs has got his hand up, Chair.
Would you like to speak, Councillor Briggs?
Yeah, good evening, Rachel. It's just, it's a bit worrying. The past few weeks, there's been a lot of cars down on Haddington Marina, and I've seen a few of them in Ale and Laughing Gas, if that's what you call it. I've been in contact with 101 and reported it a few times, passed on a few registrations. So I'm just wondering if there's anything more patrols getting continued out in Haddington area. Thank you.
Yeah, so we have increased the patrols into the area, albeit not obviously for that direct issue. This was in relation to the response to the Egyptian traveller encampments. and that engagement there. But I am aware of that, so officers have been briefed that when they've been into the area to have a look for that, and they are aware of that being an issue as well. So please do continue to report it, and I would suggest as well, if you're finding empty canisters and things, please report it on the My Allerdale app as well, because what does happen is when we have our monthly partner meetings, we do get data, not just from the police, but from Allerdale Borough Council from that, and then our analyst pulls it all together, and that will help us identify if there are hotspots, and then I can help direct the patrols.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thank you.
Any further? Oh, sorry, Councillor Heaslip. Sorry, I can't see your hand because you've got a blue sign behind it.
Oh, yeah.
Right, sorry, I didn't. I don't. I have no idea what you can see, mate. I only can see what I can see. Yeah, point 4, which I hope may actually help Inspector Gale. The issue of Harriet and Marina was mentioned there. We know there's been a lot of problems with the Gypsy and Traveller unofficial Gypsy and Traveller encampment there. I just think it would help us as a town council, would help the residents of Harriet, would help the police. I would suggest the town council writes to Allerdale Borough Council, which has the responsibility to provide a Gypsy and Traveller camp, to ask them to expedite the setting up of the camp, which has already been approved in the local plan for Allerdale. It's been through the whole process. It's been approved by the planning inspector. The site's been identified. The site's been approved by the Gypsy and Traveller Council. The things are all there ready to go, but it seems over the last few months, Allerdale Borough Council has took the foot off the pedal there. So we're in this situation where, because we don't have a Gypsy Travelling encampment set up, we've got one designated, but it's not actually set up. We have difficulty in getting Gypsy and Travellers to use that proper encampment rather than just rocking up anywhere. So I would suggest a letter to Allerdale Borough Council, because it's their responsibility, might help move things along. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? No. I'm going to send a letter. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm going to dilate now because it's been a very, very long day for me, but thank you.
Thanks very much. We really appreciate your time.
My email address is on the newsletter. If you're not signed up, you can sign up on the website, as is a bio this month of all the local officers, if anyone does need that information.
Sorry, before you go, I'm not sure if Councillor Heaslip's got another question.
I thought he was just waving goodbye.
Are you waving goodbye, or have you got a question?
I was just waving goodbye to Rachel.
All right. Okay, well, bye. Thanks, you.
Rachel. See you.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Rachel.
So we go on to the next stage, is the public participation. So if there are any questions or anything that members of the public would like to bring up, this is your opportunity.
I think Mr. Quinn has something to say.
Thank you. It's about the waste dumping and burning of the waste on the allotments behind Bolton Street. We've also got stables behind there, and there's 2 wood mills behind there, which are quite noisy. Is that being done to resolve these things? But it's been an ongoing problem for years now, you know.
I think Councillor Wilkinson would like to come in on that one.
Yeah, thank you, Lady Mayor. Chris can vouch for this, because I've taken up quite a lot of Chris's time with regarding this plot of land. My father actually was renting one of these plots of land off a man that has since been found out after over 60 years he doesn't own the land. So it took me to tell a previous councillor to stop paying his rent because he was sending a Christmas card without the card, but the present. There's a lot of work gone into this. There's a lot of still ongoing work gone into this. The legal department from Allerdale Borough Council is involved. The enforcement team's involved. Workington Town Council's involved on it. There's quite a few departments involved in it, and all I can say is it's ongoing. I have brought this up at the residents' meeting, which Councillor Miss Kelly is also secretary of. A lot can't be said because it is, in effect, like a police investigation. It's still ongoing, so at this moment in time, the least said, the better.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Can I add some detail to that, Chair? Would that be appropriate?
Oops, yes.
Just to echo what Councillor Wilkinson said, there was a hub meeting. The Allerdale hub is the sort of Allerdale-based police multi-agency task thing that meets to discuss particular problems. And there was a hub meeting following actually your complaint, John,
right.
about the fire, the particular fire that had the fire engines and the police and had to lock the street down and all that. But the problem with that space is exactly as Councillor Wilkinson explained. Managing an open space that appears to be now unowned and occupied by a variety of people doing a variety of things has always been slightly problematic. And what I think our council's approach has always been is to try and generally improve areas and treat this as a bit of a back lane issue and a bit of an allotment issue and a bit of an open space issue. And I think we're possibly at the point where we do have to sit down with our colleagues at Allerdale who have powers to take over open spaces and say we need a longer term solution to this because it's an unregulated and quite damaging open space that is causing problems. But in terms of reporting crime, Rachel's gone, but from Mitch talking in the hub, there isn't a huge amount of additional crime on that site at the moment.
No,
it is mostly just the nuisance value, and the trouble with nuisance is that there are nuisance rather than they're a crisis, and it's difficult to rally support for a nuisance rather than something that has immediate effect. But as Councillor Wilkinson says, it's ongoing, so we are still working on that.
Chris, could I?
Sorry.
Sorry, Janet.
Yes, sorry, Councillor Heaslip had a...
Oh, sorry, go on, okay.
Is there something you wanted to reply to Chris?
I think something that might be helpful to him, I hope. That plot of land was listed on the allotments list of the Workington Borough Council. It seems to some point subsequent to that disappeared off the ownership list of Allerdale Borough Council. Won't be the first time that something got lost in the transfer between Workington Borough Council and Allerdale District Council as then was. But if you want anyone who can actually remember it, the leader of the council and the chairman of the appropriate committee before 74 was ex-councillor Brian Wilson, who's still around, knows the plot of land very well, and may be able to give you some useful information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I'll set Chris Fleming on him.
I'm muted. Sorry, Councillor Wilkinson had another.
Yeah, thank you, Janet. Reiterating, there is every department on this, where there is a multitude of sins happening on that land. One is the infestation of invasive species, which is Japanese knotweed. I have had the enforcement team there. It was inspected and a price was given 10 years ago to tidy it up. It was then £10,000. I've had the enforcement team back again, and the price on a rough estimate to tidy the plot of land up at the moment in time is over £100,000, because everything that's been tipped there is now classed as contaminated waste, because Japanese knotweed which is the invasive species, travels by spores. There is now people who are renting land adjacent to it are now complaining of the Japanese knotweed. I've had this issue with the environmental department in Allerdale. There is other problems with people attempting to take adverse possession. And to be honest with you, the land registry only came about in 1997. It is not even registered on the land registry. And an ex-previous councillor has paid for donkey's years rent to someone in Ireland. And it took me to contact him on a very friendly councillor approach instead of an authoritarian council approach. And he's now rescinded all ownership of the land. But the enforcement team is still working on it, as well as other departments, because of businesses that's cropped up on this land. It's still an ongoing search. I thank Councillor Heaslip for what he said. Chris has actually searched as far back as he can remember. He's gone through the archives, and it's still an issue of trying to pinpoint actually who owns it. But I think Councillor Heaslip is pointing in the right direction, and I think it is actually land owned that's been lost by Allerdale Borough Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, can we carry on with the meeting now? Can we go on to apologies?
Excuse me while I shuffle things. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
I have apologies, Chair, from Councillor Bainbridge, who has a family matter, Councillor Johnny Hunter, who has a health matter, Councillor Lillian Baldry, who has a family matter, Councillor Denise Rollo, who has another meeting. You may know she's a board member at Lakes College, and Councillor McCarthy, who gives no particular reason but does send his apologies.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I think you've already done that, but
that's okay.
Thank you. Next one, declarations of interest. So any undeclared, previously undeclared. Sorry, Councillor Wilkinson.
Yeah, Chris, I don't actually have any rule book here with me, but could I ask you a question? Are apologies to be accepted when there is no reason for why apologies are placed? How can you clarify whether they satisfy under the right criteria if there is no reason of why they don't turn up? So could you clarify that point for me, please?
If I may, Chair.
Yes,
that's all right with you, Janet. Yes, the council is at liberty to not accept apologies if no particular reason is given. It can not accept apologies when a reason is given if it prefers. But the general practice has been if a councillor comes up with a legitimate reason for not being in a council meeting, we will accept their apologies. But there's no we can treat each one individually and decide whether those apologies are sufficient, if you like. That would be in order. Chair.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Cannon.
Sorry, Barbara, you'll have to unmute. Oh. Unmute.
There are all these buttons flying about. Can I declare an interest in the Finance and General Purposes Committee meeting of the 22nd of June, minute F19, which is a reference to a grant you're giving to the Carnegie Theatre. As you know, it's a registered charity, and I'm a trustee of that charity.
Charity. Yeah, I'll amend that. But Janet, do you want to go back on the apologies issue?
Sorry, I'm muted.
Was the one, Will, was there an apology you were proposing not to accept?
No, I actually was asking for clarity on it, Chris, because when I read my paperwork, it says that under the rules and regulations, and an apology without a reason to apologise, I don't think comes under the correct rules and regulations, does it? I just wanted clarity on it.
It's for the council to accept apologies as they are. and I've told you what the apologies are to the best of my knowledge. So Councillor Bainbridge has a pressing family matter which Councillor Miskelly can fill you in on the details of, but are of a sensitive nature. Likewise, Councillor Hunter, Councillor Baldry, and Denise sends her apologies because she's in a board meeting at the college. It was Councillor McCarthy who was the only one who didn't submit a reason for not attending.
Thank you. Can we go to the next one? There's
Sorry,
nothing, no
sorry,
reason
Chair, I just need to clarify.
Sorry.
The agenda says to receive and accept any apologies. Are we accepting those apologies, or are we going to?
Does anyone wish not to accept them?
That's not the way you do it.
I think. What
Move the apologies.
Sorry, can we move the apologies?
Got Councillor Heaslip. Councillor Briggs says yes.
I would like to move, if the motion is to move the apologies, I'd like to move an amendment with the exception of the apology of Councillor McCarthy because he's given no reason.
I want to speak on that.
Right. Right. Can Councillor David King speak?
Yeah, I would like to second that. I think it shows great disregard for the council when you can just say, I'm not turning up, but give no reason. So I fully support Councillor Heaslip's amendment.
So, Chair, if I may summarise, the resolution on the table is to accept apologies from Councillor Bainbridge, Hunter, Baldry and Rollo, but not those of Councillor McCarthy. Is that correct?
Thank you, yes.
Do you want a roll call vote on that, or are you happy to get everybody to waive?
Can we waive? Is everyone happy to waive?
It's for you to decide whether you're happy with that. I've got everybody waving. Ryan, you're not doing anything. Does that mean because you're against it?
No, sorry, Chris, I missed all.
You just zoned out. You're watching the telly.
No, I didn't hear none of that.
Oh.
I think we've passed them, Councillor. I think unless somebody wants a particular counted vote, there's certainly most of councillors were voting in favour of that.
Okay.
The next item, Councillor Cannon came up with a declaration of interest on minute 19 point whatever it was, the grants to Carnegie, pointing out that she's a director at the Carnegie charity.
So we can go to item 3. Exclusion of press and public. We haven't anything on. Are there any agenda items that I don't think there are that the press or public need to be excluded from? No. Can we receive the minutes from the meeting of 5th of February and affirm them as a true record? Can we take those as read?
Somebody propose them, please. Paul and Herbert.
Okay. Mayoral announcements. You can see the things that I've done, but I'd just like to take a moment to thank all our dedicated health and other key workers and our emergency services, community and volunteer groups, our local councils, neighbours, friends and families have supported us all during this awful crisis. Our councillors have all been working extremely hard to look after vulnerable people, and they've ensured that no one's been without help when needed. And I can't thank everyone by name, but special thanks must go to Paul Scott and the Community Response Group, Angela Good and her team at Moor Close Community Centre, and to Heather Nixon and her colleagues at Cumbria County Council for all their efforts to support our local communities. And our own town council office and grounds maintenance teams have also done a sterling job at keeping council affairs ticking over and ensuring that the town and its environment are maintained so that local people have had pleasant open spaces to visit during lockdown. So thank you so much to everyone. Reports from committee. So first one, Finance and General Purposes Committee. We received the draft minutes. Does anyone, does Paul want to speak to that?
No, I'd just like to present them, and I would do my best to answer any questions should anybody have any.
Can we move that the minutes be accepted?
Paul's proposing, Blaine's seconding them. Any against? I'm not going to count for unless there's an against. Anybody against that?
No.
Good. Okay.
Can we accept the risk assessment recommended by the committee at its meeting on 21st of June?
Yes. All in favour? Can somebody second it, assuming Paul is proposing it? Blaine, are you seconding that? Thank you.
Can we accept the internal auditor's report for 2018-19? Yeah, Paul, Scott.
Paul and Blaine again. Thank you.
We complete and accept the annual governance statement.
Oh, Chair, I have to read this one out. Just bear with me. Some of you may remember this from previous years, but I have to read out a series of statements. I'm going to assume that they're all in the affirmative unless somebody shouts. I think that's probably the easiest way to do this. So unless you particularly want to oppose it, perhaps you could just keep your hands down until the end. So I'm going to read this out. We have put in place arrangements for effective financial management during the year and for the preparation of the accounting statements. We maintained an adequate system of internal control, including measures designed to prevent and detect fraud and corruption, and reviewed its effectiveness. We took all reasonable steps to assure ourselves that there are no matters, actual or potential, non-compliance with laws, regulations and proper practices that could have significant financial effect on the ability of this council to conduct its business or manage its finances. We provided proper opportunity during the year for the exercise of electors' rights in accordance with the requirements of the accounts and audit regulations. We carried out an assessment of the risks facing this authority and took appropriate steps to manage those risks, including the introduction of internal controls and/or external insurance cover where required. We maintained throughout the year an adequate and effective system of internal audit of the accounting records and control systems. We took appropriate action on all matters raised in reports from internal and external audit. We considered whether any litigation, liabilities or commitments, events or transactions occurring either during or after the year end have a financial impact on this authority, and where appropriate have included them in the accounting statements. So if I get everybody's agreement to that, so anybody against that? So I'm going to take that as being unanimous, if I may, Chair.
Okay, that's fine. Item E, to accept the annual accounting statements 2019-20.
That's that one. For those who can't see it.
Yep.
Happy with that?
Yep. So
that's us, Janet, on that one.
Okay. Planning Committee. Can we receive the minutes of the Planning Committee on 2nd of March, please?
Blaine, are you going to propose this? Yes, thank you. Did somebody second it? Was that you doing that, Linda? Thank you.
Linda.
We happy with that?
Yep.
Okay.
Culture Committee. Can we receive the draft minutes of the Culture Committee meeting on the 10th of March, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. I move the Culture Committee meeting, and I would like to also have minuted the fact that against all odds, South Workington Youth Partnership managed to do VE Day and the big lunch celebrations virtually. Absolutely awesome.
Oh,
brilliant.
Fantastic. Thank you. Did you have a seconder for that, Chris?
Wilkinson.
Oh, Will, right.
I beg your pardon.
It just comes up as Wilkinson on my screen.
I feel like I'm back at school.
That's what it feels like. Councillor Heaslip is waving.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm sorry, it's a bit difficult to interject in this at the right time.
I know.
Well, I'm sure there have been, although there hasn't been a formal meeting of the planning committee since the 2nd of March, I'm sure there have been submissions by the council to planning applications considered by Allerdale Borough Council. Although they haven't been through a planning committee, they've been done through a delegated procedure. And just for completeness, so we know what we've said, it would be helpful if we could have a list of those, even though it wasn't actually a committee meeting, it was done under delegated powers. It'd be useful to know what's been done in our name. I'm sure it'll be fine, but it'd be useful to know.
Can I respond, Chair? I wonder if it's acceptable. I mean, we can do it in different ways, but I was thinking that usually this would be reported to the next meeting of the planning committee. Is that too late? The planning committee will have to meet at some stage under the new system, and although we haven't actually had any planning applications for 4 weeks, so usually delegated decisions are reported to the next planning meeting. Is that too late? Do we want some method of reporting them prior to that?
Does Councillor Heaslip want to come in?
It all depends when it is, Mayor. I've no idea when that will be. I mean, if the next meeting isn't until November, it's a long time to go without knowing what's been said in our name. I don't know. If I may, I'll do a review of it, and I'll publish the review of them. It'll just be a form. I'll publish that, and hopefully we will have a planning meeting.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wilkinson.
Yeah, this is in response to Councillor Heaslip. I'm just wondering whether Councillor Heaslip would be happy enough if Chris was just to send you the report via email.
Yeah.
I think, yes, fine. But I think all councillors should see it, not just me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's fun. No worries.
Okay. Can we go on to item 10, annual meeting of the council?
Oh, we've not got an environment meeting to consider.
Oh, sorry, I've ticked it. Sorry, apologies, Councillor Harrington.
I put forward the minutes of the 12th of June for the environment meeting. Would you like to ask any questions?
Councillor Dixon's got up her hand. Sorry, Beth, say something.
Yeah, please. Councillor Rolo did go to the meeting actually because it was the first one, but she couldn't speak because she's not on the committee, is she? So there's a question from her which she can't give obviously. First, she just wondered with the mower. Obviously we've got a lot of Workington bowling clubs around, and it is quite what's the word, sorry, things sporting Workington, and it's a very accessible sport. So have we looked into sharing mowers with other clubs? I do know Seaton's got one, and obviously the one by Navies, they've got one as well. Is that a cheaper option to look at? Because the trade of actually keeping the bowling green is a dying trade, so if we've got that skill, we could actually use it in our advantage with the other bowling clubs, could we?
Well, I quite agree with you there on that one, Beth. We are working towards making improvements to have more members, etc., more open to the public. As I said, that's ongoing now, but obviously the pandemic has stopped a lot of conversation going on. If I go a little bit further, the mower was delivered last week and found to be suitable. So hopefully, possibly Chris can update you if they started going back now to playing balls. But I am all for what you've just suggested, is looking into the future and finding effort to go forward to include everyone and also to be financially independent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've
Shall
got.
Shall I respond,
Sorry,
Chair,
Chris.
to that? Yeah, just to confirm that the bowling green we're expecting to be playable sometime next week. Having instituted the new mowing regime, the mower we bought was under budget. It'll get us through this season, next season, and possibly a season after before it goes blunt. And somebody gave me a contact of somebody in Cockermouth who might be able to put a new blade on it, so that's quite useful. Beyond that, I'd really quite like to see if our grounds maintenance team had time to see them being contracted out to work on other greens.
Yeah.
That's certainly something we should be looking at and improving the greens elsewhere. But I did look at sharing. We didn't get very far with the conversation on that basis.
I believe club politics come into that a bit as well, don't they?
Mm.
Another point was, reading on it, I wasn't aware that there was a disabled toilet in the clubhouse. Disabled toilets are lacking in Workington, to be fair, especially down that bottom end. And actually the disabled toilet up under the multi-storey last time I was in town was actually being used as the male toilet, to obviously social distance. So do we have, is it an outside access to that? Can we use that? Is it radar key accessible? Is that something we could look at opening for the public, especially as you know, that I know that a lot of disabled people use the park.
Chair, do you want me to respond on that?
Sorry. Could I answer that one, Chris, please?
Please.
Basically, at the moment in time, we don't know exactly where about the disabled toilets are because of lockdown situations it stands. But as far as using it for public, then I think we're going to further consultation before we can take that into matter, depending on how long the lockdown is happening and it is suitable for the club to accept that as a public amenity.
Yeah, that's fine. I just know that disabled toilets with radar keys are still accessible publicly during COVID. So it was just a question for that.
Yes.
And the last thing is, how far are we with the disabled accessible gates?
Sorry, I didn't quite hear you there.
How far are we for the disabled accessible gates that which have been an ongoing thing for a few months now?
I think there was some decision made that, but pandemic again has interfered with a lot of things going on there, and it was decided that it was going to be taken off, so that we allowed a free run. I think Chris can answer better on this one, but I think it was at that time agreed before it was finally put to full council that it would be open for access for wheelchairs and whatever to go into the park. But again, everything's come to a standstill with this pandemic. I'm sorry about that, but it has really. So that's a question, possibly pass it across to Chris that can answer it in more detail than what I can at this moment in time.
So yeah, Alison and our friendly neighbourhood welder, and yes, other welders are available. Councillor Armstrong, I'm fully aware of that. And should we need to have a competition of welders, then we will get one. But we did have a look around the park with a friendly neighbourhood welder a couple of weeks ago now, because we also needed some work to be done on one of the slides on the multiplayer unit in the play area. Brian was going to come back to us with a price for mending the gates, so that once so basically you cut off the areas that have got gate in and weld in new ends and then put in the bollard. So we're moving on costs on that, and Alison's got it on her to-do list, but you'll appreciate that Alison's to-do list is really quite long at the moment. On the toilet, by the way, we do have a radar operative. We inherited an old and abandoned radar toilet from Aldersdale Borough Council in the cafe, which I'd quite like to see if we can get open and get back into use, possibly as an alternative to using the disabled loo in the bower. So we actually have 2 options on disabled toilets in Vulcan Park, which are worth exploring. But we will come to those when Hillary's committee meets on a full agenda in due course, I suspect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We've got 2 hands up. First of all, Councillor Armstrong and then Councillor Miskelly.
Thank you. Hilary, I was just wondering, have we got a date for the park walkabout?
Not at the moment. That can be not at the moment, Carol. And I was hoping between the next fortnight or so that we could manage to do that. I should consult with other councillors to see what's the best time to be available.
No bother. Thank you.
A fortnight, hopefully, Carol. Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Councillor Miskelly.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Chair. It's about the bowling club. It's further on. You've authorised some money for a more. Great. However, I'd like to say something if you would listen. It's an on-cost, the bowling club, for a small number of people. That's an open fact. I think everyone agrees. And it's been backwards and forwards over the years. Right, I've done a bit of investigation, and if you will, I'd like to tell you what I've discovered. The bowling club has a license for the clubhouse, the Bower, I believe it's called. The bowling club does not have a license for the bowling green. The bowling club does not have a legitimate right to do the following: refuse admission and use of the bowling green to anybody. 2, lock and open at their discretion the gates to the bowling green. I propose that you should go back when your committee meets and consider the opening and locking of the bowling green gates should be the responsibility of the appropriate Workington Town Council officer. The public should use the bowling green unrestricted. They haven't been allowed to do this. The bowling club, as a small number, as on their own backs, decided they can decide who uses the green, who doesn't use the green when it's open. This is wrong. This isn't legitimate. I won't go on further. You're a very experienced chair. You know what's going on. You're a very experienced vice chair and very good committee. Please go back and consider this. If we're going to spend this much money, we have to get the optimum use and satisfaction for the people of Workington. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Miskelly, for those very valid points you've made. I appreciate them very much there. And I can't argue about the conditions of the bowling green because I've never seen of what they're entitled to do. But on reflection, I think we've only had the Vulcan Park Workington Town Council for the last just over 2 years. The bowling green, as you just suggested about being open to the public, that is one of the ideas to go forward with in the future. But as far as costing the public money, as it has been reduced quite dramatically by having our own mower. It has been reduced from £6,000, I believe, to have the grass cut in previous years, to now, but I must remember, we're getting the rent from the bowlers, which is roughly, I think, just under £700. So it isn't as bad as what people think it is. Making it an open up to the public was discussed very briefly, this, Councillor Miskelly. Yes, it will in the future, under great consideration, to be open to the general public, because that's the idea of a bowling green. But those are the conditions we have to work along with the bowling green, because remember, they have club meetings and things like that to go on. But it will be open in the future under certain conditions in the future. But remember, the bowling green will not be looking after the general public going in. So we need to pay someone to open it up for the general public. So that's extra cost again. So all these have got to take into consideration. But I will agree with you. Your points you have made are very valid, and I will take them through to our next meeting and be discussed for you.
Thank you, Chair. I must apologise to you most profusely for not being clear. Right. It won't cost any extra money for the Workington Town Council to open and shut the green, because in fact the appropriate officer under the direction of the chief officer, the town clerk, would be the estate team leader. I repeat, it doesn't have to be considered. I have investigated. I've gone through the legalities. The bowling green should be open to the public. It is an illegitimate act on behalf of the bowling club to lock it, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. But as I said, I agree with you. I believe also it should be open to the public. But at the moment, there seems to be more detail to go into it to find how it's going to be done. Who is going to take the money from the public when they want to use the green? Who is going to be employed there? Does it take another employer to work on that one? There's lots of things to be taken into consideration. And I prefer to go softly on this one to find out what's going on. These things you've mentioned tonight, they're quite valid and they're quite important. And hopefully, in the short term, we will have some good answers here. But as I say, as far as I'm concerned, the bowling green is not costing as much as people are suggesting. It will pay for itself in less than 2 years, even as it stands now, without the general public being invited in. So really, there are things ongoing at the moment now, but there's nothing definite, Councillor. So I can't really be definite on anything at the moment, because I must consult with my own committee before I can make any decisions. Thank you very much, Councillor Kelly. Thank you.
We've got points, Chair. We've got points, Chair, from Councillor Wilkinson and Councillor Heaslip.
Sorry, Chris. I would suggest that Chris Bagshaw, the town clerk, will be able to qualify what I've said, but I thank you for your input. It's much appreciated, Chair. Good evening to you, Madam.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kelly. Thank you. Thank you.
We've still got Councillor Wilkinson and Councillor Heaslip.
Sorry, Chris, it was in the order was Will, David and Mike Heaslip.
Go for it.
Is that all right? Thank you.
Who's first?
Will.
Will?
Yes, thank you very much. It's basically in response to Councillor Miss Kelly. As you've already explained to him, Madam Chair, this is something we inherited. We were not the ones that explicitly gave the bowling club the right to control the bowling green and the bower. It is already something that we have addressed on numerous occasions. There have been ongoing meetings with the bowling club. These resolutions have been put to them. They're fully understanding of this. And as you've already reiterated, the moor will be self-funding in the first 12 months because it's considerably a lot less than what the price of what was being paid for to a contractor for to cut the grass. There is ongoing discussions. I'll call them discussions and not negotiations with regard to this, and also how can I put it, to use the moor not just for to cut that square patch of grass. And in response to Councillor Dixon, the problem with lawnmowers.
Can I just come in here, Councillor Wilkinson, please? This has all been discussed before. Councillor Miss Kelly got his answer. So I don't know about going back to Beth Dixon, whether you can question Beth Dixon. I do not know whether that can be allowed within a virtual meeting, but I have to ask the advice of Chris on this one. Can we ask your advice, Chris, on that one? Is Will going to be allowed to question Beth about something?
Not a question, it's an answer.
I think it's up
to the lawnmower.
It's for Janet to decide who speaks to who.
That's fine. Yes. So
Janet, I mean, if you think that sorry, I ducked out because I'm over here. I have the flip chart that's got all the details of what's going on in the Environment Committee and what's going to come to Hillary's next committee, and I was just scribbling some notes on it. Yes, so no, it's for Janet to decide whether she'll accept Will's point to Beth. Chair, it's entirely up to you. Or you could take Mike Heaslip's question, and Billy Miskelly's now got his hand up.
Right, I'll take Councillor Heaslip's question next.
Why?
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to thank Councillor Harrington for the assurance that she's looking into the bowling green being open to the public. I can remember only a couple of years ago, when I should have been doing my homework, being able to go to the parties hut in Vulcan Park, get for me sixpence, it might have been threepence, can't remember, get a couple of bowls and a jack, and go into the bowling green just as a citizen of Workington, and it would be nice to do that again one day. So thank you, Councillor Harrington. I'm looking forward to being able to do that again.
Well, Councillor Heath, could just reply, we could make a councillors team of bowls, you know. That would be a good idea.
Indeed, yeah.
I believe the tradition was councillors versus staff.
Yeah, okay. Was it Councillor Miskelly again?
Sorry, it was Councillor King wanted to come in. He was...
Yeah.
Good evening, David. Good evening.
Good evening, Chair. What worries me is when statements are made that people have done research on legal matters, and have as yet not been prepared to put down any written evidence of what those legal matters are. I'm afraid to say that in the context of Councillor Miskelly's so-called legal research, it bears no relevance. It is merely as it stands at this moment until he's prepared to produce a paper which includes his sources. It is merely hearsay.
Okay, thank you, David. Would Councillor Miskelly like to reply to that one?
Hello, Chair. Thank you very much for your indulgence. Yes. Firstly, what Will Wilkinson said, good mate, man. This is, we inherited. No, I've been a councillor. This is my third term. What has happened is, somewhere in the annals of history, the bowling club has managed to take over what was the responsibility of the authority. That's a fact. Secondly, in response to Councillor King, I'm not clever enough to do legal research or research of any kind. I'll leave that to Councillor King. He's very good at it. Now, what I did do, and what everyone can do, is look at the licence. It's clear as day. Talk about hidden in open space. This is what happened. It's in the licence. Thank you, Chair. I won't bother you anymore. I think you'll have a bad head. You've done your best. Your answers have been good, so thank you.
Okay, but thank you, Miss Kelly. Now, I promise you, I will look into it myself and have a word with Chris about all this. But you must remember as well, Councillor Miskelly, it's only these last 2 years that we've taken over the Vulcan Park, and sadly, unfortunately, the bowling green's been allowed to kind of carry on as normal. But things have changed now, and things have changed for the better. And hopefully, it's a community. And I will add this, and I am so strongly for the bowling. I'm pleased the bowling club is going to be still there, because I have found out during this lockdown that older people do need a community outlet, and the bowling is for the absolutely brilliant for people that are less quicker than they used to be, and it is a community thing, and I'm fully for them, to be quite honest with you. So I hope that satisfies you. But they're not
well said, Chair, because I'm one of those people. Thank you.
So am I. Okay, so I'll say
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you.
Miss Kelly, thank you. Councillor.
Have we got somebody who can second the minutes? Blaine, thank you.
And it is me thinking I was going to get off light with only one paragraph. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, you're back on.
Thank you. Right, item 10, annual meeting of the council. So we need to confirm a date for the annual meeting of the council. Do you want me to read through this or? Chris?
Entirely up to you, Chair. You could take it as read. Councillors have had the report in front of them. Okay. It would be tedious if we read it back to them.
It would really, yes.
The issue is the government has given us the capacity to arrange our meeting on such day as we determine, or leave it until the next annual meeting, which must be in May 2021. I need some instruction from the council as to what to do. So it's to the council to decide when you want your annual meeting.
Right, so we've got Councillor Scott, Councillor Wilkinson and Councillor Armstrong. So Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just looking at this, and it's just really, as Allerdale has extended it for 12 months, can I put forward that we also extend for 12 months as per Allerdale?
So that's a proposal on the table.
Right.
Seconded.
And that's seconded. So 12 months is Paul. Seconded by David. Thank you. So you've got a proposal, Chair, that we pick a day on such a day in May as we may determine, and we could either choose a day in May now, which would be part of the proposal, or we could choose a day in May later, at a later date if we so desire, or the amendment might be to say no, we want a different day. I suspect somebody might come up with one of those.
So we've got two hands raised at the moment. Councillor Heaslip.
No, you had two already. Carol and.
Oh, sorry, who did I say? We had Councillor Wilkinson was next.
You've just got Will and Michael.
Right.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. If my technology was working, I would have actually beaten Councillor King to second in the motion. I was actually trying to get in to propose exactly the same, and I want the proposal to be on the anniversary of last year's meeting in 2021. That is something I propose, but there's already a proposal on the table. So.
Oh no, Carol was next.
Councillor Armstrong had a hand up. Have you changed your mind?
No, I was just looking for some dates. I propose we leave it to 12 months, as Councillor Scott said, and possibly have it on the 12th of May next year, on the Wednesday, so we've got something to look forward to.
Second.
I need a party.
Councillor Heaslip.
I don't know, Madam Mayor, whether this is an amendment or a direct negative. I'll be guided on procedure. But I've never believed that doing something just because Allerdale Council does it is necessarily a good idea. And so far, the only reason that has been given for proposing a delay until next May is simply that we follow sheepishly along behind Allerdale Borough Council. I've never been in favour of doing that. As we can see, it might be a little bit messy, but this system seems to have worked perfectly adequately for the purposes of actually conducting an annual meeting, because it's actually quite a structured process conducting an annual meeting. There tend not to be any committee reports to consider, the simple process of doing some elections of offices and committees, which is perfect. It seems to be perfectly well be done by the process that we currently we're currently underway with. And I don't see any particular reason why we should avoid having a meeting at which we're accountable to our public. I don't know what we've got to fear from actually holding an annual meeting by Zoom. Of course, you would need to do a formal mayoral installation with the public and so on at a later date, perhaps in a suitably distanced public building. I'm sure we could find one big enough. But actually, there are councils which have held their annual meetings and installed mayors on Zoom. So it seems to me there's no sound reason for delay other than to put things off for I can see no good reason. I think we should try in these circumstances to follow our standard procedures of holding an annual meeting as soon as we possibly can. Now we've got this Zoom platform up and running, I see no reason to delay it. If that's an amendment, I'll propose the amendment, Madam Mayor. If that's a direct negative, then I'll be urging members to vote against the original proposal. I'm guided by you.
I would like to suggest, Chair, we've got a couple of comments come in.
Yeah.
The proposal, as it is, seems to be around the 12th of May, 2021. So if I can take that as a resolution, and then Mike Heaslip is proposing an amendment to that it isn't the 12th of May 2021. Michael, have you got a date in mind? And then you can have an actual amendment.
No, I would suggest merely at an early day when the clerk can organise the necessary papers as soon as possible. I'm not minded to bind the council at this stage to a particular date, but certainly within the next 2 months.
Within the next 2 months.
We've got a number of hands up.
Chair, do you want to take some more comment on this, and then we'll move to a vote on
Yes.
Mike Heaslip's amendment, and then we'll move to a vote on the
Got
final.
several hands up. We've got Councillor Harrington.
Yes, I'd just like to say that there is as I say, I can see Councillor Heasley's point of view on that one, but also it isn't just an Allerdale choice to do this. It was instructions from the central government at what was legally possible on that one. And it's the mayor making that I found is most important of anything else. It's something to be proud of, and you can't do that virtually. So we're going to have to wait till this lockdown has finished totally before we can have a proper ceremony. And it looks like it's going to be into next year. Possibly there could be some other kind of extraordinary meeting if there is a necessary for members of certain committees to be jiggled around a wee bit. I'm quite open to that. But basically, I'll go back to the 12th of May, 2021 and say that for our AGM.
Thank you. Councillor Miscally.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. If you just give me one moment to compose myself. I would very much like it if Councillor Scott agrees to ask him about his proposal. Would that be permissible to both yourself and Councillor Scott or not?
I don't know if you can do that. Can you, Chris?
Entirely up to you, Janet.
No.
Do you want?
What did you want to ask?
I just wanted comments with Councillor Scott, Mayor, if you'll allow me, if you want.
Feel free, Billy.
Thank you very much. Right. Right. Are you familiar with the numbers 3,073, 428 and 9? I'm sure you're not. So I'm going to tell you. Well, the number 3,073 is the number of constituents of Workington Town Council are being denied a voice on the council because for 428 days since the last council elections, 9 duly elected councillors have been refused admittance onto committees and or other official duties purely because they're members of the Labour Party by the members of the Allerdale Independent Group. I find this disgraceful. Now you're proposing an even longer stint where we can either get onto committees or be told we can't get onto committees purely because we're a member of the Labour Party. It's disgraceful. Thank you.
If I can just come in, it's certainly nothing to do with the Labour Party. I think first off, what I would say was that it's the process that we would use that can be difficult. I know Mike said that it can be easily managed, and I'm sure we could probably get through it. The main thing I would say that worries me is that Janet's lost part of her year as a mayor through fundraising, etc. And I think it would be nice for her to be able to carry on with that by extending the year. When it comes to committees, I quite agree with Hilary that if you wish to discuss committees, there's no reason why we can't do that like civilised human beings, and then do an EGM or propose them at the next council meeting, perhaps. I have no issue with that.
Thank you. Oh.
But the AGM, Councillor Scott, decides on the committees, does it not?
No.
Can we go on to someone else, please? We've got Councillor King, then Councillor Armstrong, Councillor Wilkinson.
Yeah. I'd like to remind the members that at the AGM, there was a very clear-cut and democratic vote in relation to all the positions on all the committees and all the chairmanships and all the officers' positions such as mayor, etc. The fact of the matter is that we've had a situation where we have been unable to actually see out those things which we have developed as committees due to this wretched COVID virus. There are an awful lot of things in the pipeline that need to be resolved, and I think our present chairs and our present committee structure are doing an excellent job. Contrary to what Mr. Miskelly says, this has absolutely, the structures have absolutely nothing to do with the situation relating to political parties. We are not a political organisation, even though the new constitution of the Labour Party says that we are. I think, however, that to be able to rupture what we are doing as a council in this midterm, just for the sake of being able to rearrange things, isn't going to put us forward in any way, shape or form. I'm of the opinion that what Councillor Scott said in the very first instant, that we keep things as they are until such time as we have a meeting in May when we can consider and publish to our constituents exactly what we've done in their name and exactly what we believe is the way forward, and then to have a proper structured meeting as we would normally have. Therefore, I fully support what Councillor Scott has proposed in the first place, and I think that that is the way forward. Michael Heaslip's, Councillor Michael Heaslip's, what he's put forward isn't an amendment. It's a motion against.
No,
Therefore,
sorry, David, we're taking it as an amendment. We are taking it as an amendment. It's
yeah, but it is not, is it?
Motion against the motion.
It is not an amendment. It is totally against that. They
You're
are
not the chair, David. Shut up.
Yeah.
Please, can we have a bit of civility between everybody?
I'm not being uncivil.
If I could clarify, we did agree that basically we've got a motion and an amendment to a motion. So if we can keep focused on that rather than get bogged down on the technicalities.
Right, Councillor Armstrong.
On while I unmute myself. I totally agree with Councillor Scott. I think we should leave the mayor in post until we've decided on the 12th of May next year, due to the fact funding's very much needed in all these local charities. Give her a chance to get some money, and I don't think it'd be fair to put a mayor in place for possibly a 6-month period. So I'm totally for leaving it as it is. Thank you.
Councillor Cannon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The last time I suggested to this council that we followed the advice and the procedures that Allerdale were going to do, I got my head in my hands. So I think you're very brave. There is nothing to prevent this council to decide, if it wished to allow a mayor to carry on into a second year. I do understand the point about what COVID has done to a mayoral year. I know, especially because I was very ill towards the end of my mayoral year and lost quite a bit of time too. So I do understand that. However, I want to come back to the other point. We shouldn't be talking about this in terms of giving somebody a year in office. We're talking about a democratic deficit on this council. We have faced the biggest peacetime catastrophe in the world recently. And we have 9 members of this council who have been duly elected by the people, who they can't serve because they haven't got a voice on committees because you decided not to let us have that voice. And if you go on until May, which is the time, you know, for another annual meeting, we still don't have that voice. And that is not democratic. You are, I've been elected to serve people, and I haven't got a voice to be able to represent them on this council in a committee. You have 9 people who can't sit on a committee, some of whom have got an awful lot of experience on how to run this council. So I'd like to suggest that you reconsider that. What you can do, if you hold a meeting in two months' time, reorder the committees, and if you wish to ask the mayor, the current mayor, to stand for another year, there's nothing to stop her doing it. In fact, the late John Minto did exactly that. How to unmute myself. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got 2 hands up. There's Councillor Dixon and then Councillor Holliday.
Hi. To be fair, Councillor Cannon covered what I wanted to say. You know, I understand, and there's nothing stopping us re-electing the mayor. But as somebody who is the only councillor for my ward, I am on no committees, and forgive us if I'm wrong, 370 something constituents I represent have no voice on any committee because I am not on any committees. And I would urge that we relook at committees, if nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Holliday.
I've just got a comment to make. For 2 terms of office, when I was independent, the only independent on this council, I was shunned out by the Labour Party. Even to the extent when Chris called out for for volunteers for some committees. I put my hand up and there was a bit of a shuffle behind me to get somebody else to say they were standing, though they didn't want to. So I've no sympathy with the Labour Party on that score. They would keep you out if they could. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Can I propose we go to a vote?
Can we go to a vote?
You've just got one comment outstanding, Janet.
Oh,
if you want to take Councillor Heaslip and then move to a vote, that would be probably fair.
Yes, that's fine. Sorry, I didn't see that.
I would just reply to the debate on my amendment and just point out that I think if the clerk checks the record, I don't think you'll find that what Councillor Holliday said is accurate. I've been a member of the Town Council for 9 years. Throughout that period, there have always been, when Labour had a majority, there were always places made available for councillors from the Conservative and independent groups in proportion to their membership of the council. We didn't have to do that. We could have excluded them. We didn't, because we thought we'd behave like decent people. We also, on at least one occasion, put a Conservative councillor, who was one of only 2 Conservative councillors on the council, into the mayoralty. So I think it's an unfortunate reflection on the lack of commitment to democracy demonstrated by the majority on this council now, that for the first time in 100 years or more, they have decided to completely exclude a political group from membership of any of the committees. I think if the town clerk would care to check the record, he would find that last May you broke all precedent, all history, and in fact all democratic decency. Thank you.
Councillor Harrington.
Yes, could I just come in on this one, please?
I've spoken twice. I think you'll find procedurally you now have to go to a vote.
I was going to come out in your favour, actually, Michael, on a point. Can I just come on an extra look? Can I just ask the Mayor's permission to speak twice, please?
Over to you, Janet, please.
Yes, sorry, I'm not unmuted.
Could I have your permission to speak twice, Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
Is that a yes?
Sorry, yes, it is.
Okay. Listening to both points of view here, I was on the shoe was on my other foot when I was an independent on my own. But 2 wrongs don't make a right. And I firmly believe in proportional representation, especially at Workington Town Council level. We are a community. And I do agree, and maybe make enemies of what I'm going to say now, is I do believe we're all represented by people who vote us in, and we should put our point forward as a person. And if you're not represented on the council, you can't do so. You have got your own community, you know your own community, and you serve them. And so basically I'm saying to you, I do believe in proportional representation at this level, and I am in favour of sometime down the line, I'm not too sure I agree in changing the 12th of May for being our mayor, but as I said before, and I stated, and I think Councillor Scott might agree on this one, is that we could have an extraordinary meeting to readjust some committee members so that we all get into kind of a unison together to work together after this terrible pandemic and the situations are needed desperately without fretting about committee places. And that's all I've got to say.
I think you've forgotten, Hilary, you were on committees with me.
Yes.
While Labour was in control of the council.
I'm sticking up for you, quite honestly, Michael. Don't bite the hand that's feeding you here. Okay, that's how I feel, and I've got to say it.
Chair, if we could move this to the vote now, I think that would be.
Thank you.
There's a number of suggestions being made, but we still have a sort of substantial amendment to a resolution for the 12th of May 2021, and that is that the annual meeting of the council, whatever happens at the annual meeting of the council, and obviously the council may do other things in between meetings, but the annual meeting of the council is either on May the 12th, 2021, or is in some of the time in the next 2 months. So the the amendment that we need to vote on first is that the council holds its annual meeting sometime in the next 2 months. So that's the amendment to the resolution that we hold the annual meeting in May, that it's actually in the next 2 months. And that's what I would suggest we take the first vote on. Are you happy with that, Chair?
Yes, that's fine.
So to do these votes, we have to do it by name, if you like, because it helps with the counting of the numbers. So I'm going to. The proposal is that the council holds its annual meeting in the next 2 months, and I'm going to read out your name, and I want you to say whether you are for or against that proposal. If that's okay with my learned friends. So, Councillor Armstrong.
Councillor Armstrong against.
Councillor Herbert Briggs.
Councillor Briggs against.
Councillor Ryan Briggs.
Councillor Ryan Briggs against. Thank you.
Councillor Cannon. You'll have to unmute, Barbara. You still have to unmute. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm for the amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Dixon.
For. Thank you.
Councillor Farrer.
For.
Councillor Fryer.
Sorry, she's had to leave because she had a phone call at 8 o'clock.
It was sorry. It was. I noticed somebody had left, and I wasn't able to count up. So she's no longer in the room. She left at about 7:58, didn't she? Councillor Glaister. Jed, are you awake?
Against.
Councillor Harrington. Hillary.
Unmute, Hillary.
Against.
Councillor Heaslip.
For the amendment.
Councillor Holiday.
Against.
Councillor D. King.
Against.
Sorry, we said that.
Councillor, we'll come back to you, Janet, if I may.
Yeah.
Councillor Melton. Sean. Is he still in the room?
Against.
Councillor Miskelly.
For.
Councillor Sansom.
Against.
Councillor Scott. Paul.
Against.
We've agreed that Councillor Studdett's left the meeting. Councillor Wilkinson.
Against.
And Councillor Williams.
Against.
Keep politics out the town council, lads and lasses.
It's great, isn't it? I have 12 votes. I have 5. So let's do the other way around. I have 5 votes in favour of the motion and 12 against. So the amendment falls, and we return to the original motion, which is that this council holds its annual meeting on the 12th of May, which is a Wednesday, 2021, at a time to be decided, but probably 6:30. So I will go back through the names again. Councillor Armstrong.
For.
Councillor Herbert Briggs.
For.
Councillor Ryan Briggs.
For.
Councillor Barbara Cannon.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Dixon. Beth.
I was unmuting. Abstain.
Councillor Farrer.
Abstain.
I need a new symbol for abstain. Councillor Glaister.
4.
Councillor Harrington,
For.
Councillor Heaslip,
Abstain.
Councillor Holiday,
For.
Councillor D King.
For.
Again, Janet, I'll do you the honour of not asking you what your vote is until unless it's necessary. Councillor Melton,
For.
Councillor Miskelly,
Against.
are you against it? Okay.
I am, Chris. Yes, I am. Yes.
You made me make a mistake now. Councillor Sansom,
For.
Councillor Scott,
For.
Councillor Wilkinson,
Where would golfing, mate? 4.
Councillor Williams.
For. Oh,
Okay,
right.
thank you. I have chair 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in favour. I have 1 against and 1, 2, 3, 4 abstentions. So, Chair, I have 12 in favour, 1 against and 4 abstentions.
Okay.
Means the motion is carried.
Okay.
So thank you very much. So the annual meeting of the council will be on the 12th of May 2021 at 6:30. I'll write it in my diary now. I believe that's us, Councillor. And that's the that's our.
That's it done. Thank
Yes.
you. Oh. So is that call the end of the meeting?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
So
Great,
keep
everybody.
safe. Thank you very much.
Everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The Liverpool game's just kicking off.
Just in time.
Come on, the Reds.
Goodbye. I'm going to take some menu top down to the funeral, people.
It's okay for some. I now have to go to bed to go on night shift.
Well, shut up.
Right. Good night, everybody. I'm going to close the meeting now.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.